Deep beneath the sparkling blue sea lay the hidden kingdom of Nyanza, a world of beauty unseen by human eyes. It was a kingdom full of wonder ruled by the wise King Jeremy and the graceful Queen Naomi. Their greatest treasure was not gold or pearls, it was their daughter Zivana. Zivana was unlike any mermaid in Nyanza. Her scales shimmered like the morning sun, her hair flowed like dark silk in the water, and her eyes were deep and full of curiosity. But more than her beauty, it was said she carried a rare magic, a gift passed down from the oldest mermaid ancestors. The merfolk adored her, and her parents guarded her fiercely. There was only one rule in Nyanza that no mermaid dared to break. Never go to the human world. Many years ago, the humans had brought great suffering to their kind. No one spoke of it in detail, but every child knew the warning: humans were dangerous, greedy, and unworthy of trust. The elders had sealed Nyanza away with powerful magic, ensuring that no mermaid would ever wander too close to the land again. But Zivana was different. She was not afraid, she was curious. She often swam near the border where the waves met the sky, wondering what lay beyond. Her younger sister Anika would scold her. "Why do you always come here? Do you want to bring disaster to our kingdom?" Zivana would laugh, twirling in the water. "I just want to see for myself. What if the elders were wrong? What if the humans have changed?" Anika shook her head, eyes wide with fear. "It is forbidden. If you go, you may never return." But Zivana's heart burned with curiosity. One night, when the moon was high and silver light rippled across the sea, she made a decision. She would go. She swam up, higher than ever before, until she broke through the surface. The air was warm and sweet, different from the cool embrace of the ocean. The land before her was golden and wide, stretching out under a sky full of stars. Slowly, she pulled herself onto the shore. The moment her shimmering tail touched the warm sand, something magical happened. A strange tingling spread through her body. Her tail split into two long, graceful legs, and her golden scales melted into soft, glowing skin. Her shimmering fin-like arms shifted into delicate hands. She gasped and stumbled forward, a new feeling beneath her feet, the solid ground. When she looked into the still water, she barely recognized herself. She was beautiful, even more than before. Her dark hair flowed over her shoulders, her brown skin glowed like bronze, and her dress, once made of seafoam, had become a flowing white garment that moved with the wind. She was no longer a mermaid, she was human. Her heart pounded as she took her first wobbly steps. As she wandered forward, the village lights flickered in the distance, and the smell of roasted food drifted through the air. But they were not what she had expected. They were not monsters. They were not cruel. They looked kind. Just then, a noise caught her attention. She turned and saw a young man sitting under a large tree, carving a beautiful wooden statue of a bird. His name was Kwame, a humble woodcarver. His hands moved with grace and skill, shaping the wood with patience. His dark skin was covered in a fine layer of sawdust, and his face was warm with quiet concentration. Zivana watched in fascination. But she was not the only one watching him. A young woman stood nearby, her arms crossed, her lips pressed into a firm line. Her name was Abeni. For years, Abeni had loved Kwame, hoping he would one day return her affections. But Kwame never looked at her the way she wanted. And now, this mysterious girl had appeared beautiful, enchanting, and stealing Kwame's attention with just a single glance. Kwame looked up, and his eyes met Zivana's. For a moment, everything else faded away. There was something about her, something otherworldly, something he couldn't understand but felt deep in his soul. "Who are you?" Kwame asked, setting down his carving. Zivana hesitated, her heart pounding. "I'm from far away." Kwame smiled, his eyes gentle. "Then you are welcome here." Zivana's heart fluttered. She had never felt this way before. And just like that, her fate was sealed. She began to return again and again, sneaking out of her kingdom at night, drawn to Kwame like the ocean is drawn to the moon. But one night, she was not careful enough. Her little sister Anika had followed her. When Anika saw Zivana transform into a human, her eyes widened in shock and horror. Without hesitation, she turned and swam back as fast as she could. By the time Zivana returned to Nyanza, her parents were waiting for her. Their faces were filled with anger and fear. "You have broken our most sacred rule," her father thundered. Zivana's heart pounded. "But father, the humans are not what we thought. They are kind, and..." Her mother silenced her with a firm gaze. "You do not know what you have done, Zivana." And then, the truth was revealed. Long ago, humans and mermaids had lived in peace. But greed had poisoned their hearts. They captured mermaids, drained their magic, and used their power for themselves. The merfolk had been enslaved, hunted, and betrayed. Her father's voice was grave. "And you are special, Zivana. That is why the land transforms you. If the humans find out what you are, they will do to you what they did to our ancestors." Zivana trembled, but she refused to believe it. "Kwame is not like them," she whispered. "He loves me, and I will tell him the truth." Her mother gasped. "No, Zivana, you cannot." "I love him," Zivana said, her voice strong. "And I will confess everything." Her father's fists tightened, his jaw clenched. "You are a fool, Zivana." Her mother's eyes shone with sorrow. "Once the humans know what you are, they will not love you, they will fear you." But Zivana had already made up her mind. But Abeni, who had been watching from the shadows, had seen Zivana's secret. And now, she had a plan. "If she thinks she can take Kwame from me, let's see what happens when the village finds out she's not even human." That night, as the merfolk whispered in worried tones and her sister Anika sobbed quietly, Zivana left the ocean one final time. When she arrived at the village, Kwame was waiting for her beneath the large tree where they always met. His warm eyes lit up at the sight of her. "You're here," he said, smiling. "I was afraid you wouldn't come." Zivana hesitated. She took a deep breath, her heart hammering. "Kwame, I must tell you something important." Kwame reached for her hands. "You can tell me anything." Zivana opened her mouth to speak, but she never got the chance. Suddenly, Abeni's voice rang through the village. "Everyone, come quickly. There's something you need to see." People emerged from their homes, gathering curiously around Abeni. The young woman had a wicked smirk on her face as she pointed at Zivana. "She is not one of us," Abeni declared, her voice sharp with triumph. "She is a creature from the sea. A mermaid." Gasps echoed through the crowd. Zivana's breath caught in her throat. Kwame frowned. "Abeni, what are you saying?" Abeni's eyes gleamed. "I followed her. I saw it with my own eyes. She comes from the ocean, and when water touches her, she turns back into a mermaid." The villagers murmured in shock. Some stepped back in fear, others in awe. "That's impossible. She looks human. She's lying to us." Abeni's smirk grew. "Then let's prove it." Before Zivana could react, Abeni grabbed a clay pot of water and flung it at her. The moment the water touched her skin, Zivana gasped. Her legs shimmered, twisting and merging. Her glowing brown skin transformed into golden scales. Her feet disappeared, and in their place, her mermaid tail reappeared. A loud gasp swept through the village. A child screamed. An elder crossed himself. "She's a monster," someone shouted. "No," Kwame's voice boomed over the panicked cries. "She is not a monster." But it was too late. Zivana's heart shattered as the villagers backed away, their gazes filled with fear and suspicion. Even Kwame's family stared at her in disbelief. Abeni smirked. "See, she deceived all of you. She's not one of us. She's a creature that belongs in the sea." Zivana's vision blurred with tears. She turned to Kwame, desperately searching his face for rejection, but it was not there. Instead, his jaw was clenched, his eyes blazing with fury, at Abeni, at the villagers, at their blind fear. "Enough," Kwame thundered, stepping in front of Zivana protectively. "She is not a danger to us. She has done nothing but love and trust me, and you betray her with fear." But the village chief stepped forward, his old eyes full of warning. "She is not meant to live among us," he said. "Her kind and our kind were never meant to mix. This is the way of the world." The guards moved forward. Zivana's heart pounded as she realized what was happening. They were going to drive her out. Kwame's hand gripped hers tightly. "Run," he whispered. Zivana's eyes widened. "Run, Zivana. Get back to the ocean, before they stop you." Tears spilled down her face, but she knew he was right. She turned and ran. The villagers shouted after her, some throwing stones, others simply watching in shock. She raced toward the shore, her tail slowing her down as she stumbled through the sand. The ocean was just ahead, just a few more steps. And then, a spear whizzed through the air, striking the ground near her feet. She gasped and turned to see the guards closing in. Then suddenly, Kwame appeared, blocking their way. "You will not harm her," he growled, standing his ground. The guards hesitated. Zivana took her chance. With one last, desperate push, she dived into the waves. The moment the water swallowed her, her human form vanished. She became a mermaid once more, her tail shimmering as she disappeared into the deep. Back in Nyanza, her parents awaited her return. They said nothing. They did not have to. Her father's disappointment was clear. Her mother's heart ached for her. Anika wept, clutching Zivana's hands. "I thought I lost you," she sobbed. Zivana smiled weakly. "You almost did." She had lost Kwame. She would never see him again. And yet, deep in her heart, she knew he had fought for her. Even if the world had tried to tear them apart, even if their love was doomed from the start, Kwame had chosen her. That was enough. Far away, on the shore, Kwame stood at the edge of the water, his heart aching as the waves swallowed the love of his life. He knew he would never forget her. And Zivana, swimming deep into the ocean, whispered his name one last time. "Goodbye, Kwame." The sea carried her words away. Zivana kept weeping as she swam deeper into the ocean, the salty water mixing with her tears. But in the silence of the deep, something shifted. A soft glow surrounded her, and suddenly, the water grew still. Zivana gasped as an ancient voice echoed around her. "Child of the sea, your heart has defied the old ways. Your love is pure, yet torn between two worlds. What do you seek?" Zivana turned and saw a majestic figure shimmering before her, the great sea goddess Naya, ruler of the ocean depths. Zivana trembled, but her voice was steady. "I only wish to be with Kwame," she whispered. "I love him." Naya studied her with piercing eyes. "And would you give up the sea for this love?" Zivana's heart clenched. The ocean was her home, her family, her past. But Kwame was her future. She took a deep breath and nodded. "Yes," she said, "I will leave the ocean forever if it means I can be with him." A deep hush fell over the water. Then, the goddess raised her hands, and a powerful wave of light surrounded Zivana. Her tail glowed brightly, pulsing with magic. She felt her body shift, her tail shrinking, her legs returning, her human form solidifying. When the light faded, Zivana floated upward, no longer a mermaid. She was human, forever. Kwame stood at the edge of the sea, his heart heavy, staring at the endless waves. She was gone. Gone forever. Then, he saw something emerge from the water. His breath caught in his throat. Zivana stumbled onto the shore, her long dark hair clinging to her skin, her eyes filled with love and longing. "Zivana," Kwame whispered, afraid to believe it. Tears filled her eyes. "I'm here," she whispered. "And I'm not leaving." Kwame ran to her, pulling her into his arms, his heartbeat racing against hers. "You're human," he murmured, touching her face in awe. Zivana smiled. "Forever." Cheers erupted from the villagers who had come to witness the unbelievable. The fear was gone, replaced with wonder and joy. Even Kwame's parents, once hesitant, stepped forward, seeing the truth. This love was real. Days later, under the shade of the great baobab tree, Kwame knelt before Zivana, holding a beautifully carved wooden ring in his hands. "Zivana," he said, "you have given up everything for me. Will you let me spend the rest of my life proving I am worthy of your love?" Zivana's heart soared. "Yes," she whispered. The village erupted in cheers as Kwame slid the ring onto her finger. Abeni, defeated and humiliated, watched from the crowd, her jealousy turning to regret. She had tried to ruin Zivana, but in the end, love had won. As Kwame and Zivana held hands, a warm breeze swept through the land, and far away in the depths of the ocean, Naya smiled. The curse was broken. The sea had lost a daughter, but love had gained a legend. And so, the mermaid who had once been bound to the ocean walked the earth forever, beside the man she loved. But as the days passed, a thought weighed on Zivana's heart. She had never said a proper goodbye to her family. One gift had remained with her, even after she became human, the ability to hear in her mind when a family member was calling out to her. One evening, as she sat outside her home with Kwame, she felt a familiar pull, a voice like the whisper of waves beckoning her to the shore. It was her mother. Without hesitation, Zivana hurried to the sea, her heart pounding. When she arrived at the shore, she saw them, her father, her mother, and Anika, waiting for her on the sea bank, their eyes filled with longing. Tears welled up as she stepped into the water just enough to feel the cool embrace of the sea. "I thought I would never see you again," Anika sobbed. Zivana knelt by the water's edge, reaching out toward them. "I'm so sorry I left without a goodbye," she said, her voice trembling. "I love you all." Her mother cupped water in her hands and let it fall back into the sea, a traditional farewell among their kind. "We love you too, my child," she whispered. "No matter where you are, the ocean will always know your name." Her father, usually so stern, gave her a small nod. "You have chosen your path, and we honor it." Zivana's heart ached, but she smiled through her tears. "Goodbye," she whispered. Her family slowly drifted back into the sea, their figures disappearing beneath the waves. As the last ripple faded, Zivana stood tall, her heart full. She had found love, she had found her place, and now, at last, she had found peace. And this is the end of the story. Please do not forget to leave us a comment, like this video, turn on your notification and please subscribe. Until next time, bye.